Lisa and Linda, welcome to the Scholarship GPS podcast. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Oh, well, thanks for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Well, if you would introduce yourself, Lisa. Why don't you start?
Sure. My name is Lisa Ruff. I am a clinical psychologist originally by training, but several years ago I got into college counseling. And so now I kind of, I guess, do psychologically informed college counseling, which is how our book that Linda and I wrote together, the Calm College Method, sort of came into existence.
Awesome, Linda.
I am an independent educational consultant. I'm in the St. Louis metro area and work with students from all over the country. And I appreciate your podcast because I'm also a scholarship reader. So
Nice.
I could talk about that for hours. Uh, and happy to be here. Grateful for you having us on.
Well, great, thank you. We might try to get a little inside info from you as a scholarship reader towards the end of the conversation. So
Mhm.
that's good to know. Well, it's funny. Before we jumped on here, I was on Facebook and I had a list of questions I wanted to ask the two of you. And the first one is relevant to what I was seeing on Facebook. Somebody responded to a post that I had asking what their biggest stress is with college admissions right now for their current seniors. And one of them just opened up about they're upset because their student is looking at college A and the mom, I think it's a mom, wants college B, which is a prestigious school.
Mhm.
And so that's
Mhm.
one of the things I wanted to ask you about. There's this idea of the prestige trap. Can you maybe explain what that is and give us some thoughts about the effects of that?
Sure. Well, the prestige trap, we call it that because it really is a trap. That is when you're looking at colleges and you're valuing them solely on basically what other people think of them. So
Mm,
whether it's the rankings in US News and World Report or even what your neighbors think of that school.
mm,
And if you it's for your child, you're looking at that and that's the sole criteria with which you're using to select colleges for your child to apply to. And a lot of times those colleges may or may not be good fits
mhm.
um, for your child. And on top of that, they're like super hard to get into.
Yeah.
So there's like a very big chance for disappointment and a lot of work and a lot of angst for applying. So you kind of get it from three different ways, right? You get it from the stress of trying to get ready to apply and to apply, the disappointment or the potential disappointment. And then your kid goes to a school that is not really best suited to their needs, which then
Yeah.
that has problems later.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm not going to say I assume. I know that there's also a financial piece with the prestige trap.
Mm,
Linda, do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think first, when you chase those prestigious schools, you end up applying to, all of them or as many of them as the Common App will allow.
Mm-hmm.
And I know as a parent, the thought of paying 20 application fees that range from 50 to $75 makes me just, sweat. Um, on top of the 70 to $90,000 tuition. So
Hmm.
when you're chasing prestige, you're not making your decisions based on what is best for your student. And we really try and think of those fit, academic, social, and financial fit.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're just looking at that prestige thing. And then it's kind of like the dog who catches the car. If if you do get in,
Uh-huh.
then you may be making financial decisions like, okay, we said we'd figure it out, and now we have to figure it out.
Yeah. Yep.
And students can't borrow that much money in their own
Right.
name.
Yep. Yep.
So that falls on the parents, which is how you hear about, you know, grandma still paying off student loans.
Right.
Um, and then they're missing out. It's the opportunity cost because you have been chasing prestige.
Mhm.
You may have ignored all those schools that would be wonderful fits, but
Yeah.
maybe, they're not on the top 10 list or something like that. But we probably could have been very happy and would have wound up being very successful.
Yeah. Um, do you feel like we're going to speak in generalities here, that there are any benefits to these prestige schools? I mean, people talk about connections and networking and things like that, but for most students, do you think that that's a factor?
I suppose it's always a factor. And obviously, I mean, just because a school is prestigious doesn't mean it's not of very high quality, right? Of course, there
Sure.
are some,
Sure.
elements that help to develop that prestige, and there
Yeah.
are, the potential for connections. But I think the research has shown that for your average middle class to upper middle class person, the connections that you get there don't really make a difference in terms of your career success. Now, if you're
Hmm.
from a low income, first generation kind of background, then going to a prestigious institution will definitely give you a bump in terms of your earnings and your career
Hmm.
success. So
Okay.
it's, I mean, it's not that they don't have those benefits, but it's complicated, right? I mean, if you are not of the cognoscenti and you're trying to hobnob with extremely wealthy or extremely, I'll just say successful families, like you don't
Hmm.
always fit in if you're just,
Mm. That's a great
um,
point.
and
Yeah.
so, it's not as easy to make those connections as people think.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's not like if you end up at prestige school X that you're all of a sudden part of the in group, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
No. And I do think, and I know the research that Lisa is referencing, but I'm going to reference Malcolm Gladwell,
Oh.
who's
Mhm.
more for the common folk.
Mhm.
And, he talks about if you go to Harvard or a similar school
Mhm.
and you're in the bottom of the class, what does that do to your self-esteem?
Yeah. Yep.
Versus if you are at your regional public school and you're the rock star.
Hmm. Yep.
And all of a sudden you have all of these opportunities open to you. So it is, maybe not. Um, it's tough to say.
Yeah, yep. Well, I'm always thinking on the financial piece, and I think that is a big trap. We're seeing that we're right in that piece of the cycle right now. People, they've gotten into their quote dream college, and it's really hitting them hard. Oh, we have no idea how we're going to pay for it. So, looking at that financial fit is huge.
It is a big deal, and it's not just the tuition and the room and board, but all of the other things.
Hmm.
What about flying cross country
Right,
on spring break and parents' weekend
right.
and all of that and Greek life?
Mhm.
I don't know if I should say thankfully my kid didn't go into Greek life, um, but I know it can be quite an additional expense
Yeah,
at some
yep,
schools. And just keeping up with the collegiate Joneses uh,
right.
to make sure you have the right jacket and
Yeah,
all of that kind of stuff.
yep, yeah. Well, one of the things that I really like about your messaging is that you talk a lot about process, process goals. Can you talk a little bit about how that applies specifically from the financial paying for college angle?
Yeah, sure. So, and Linda, feel free to jump in here at any point because Linda's more of the finances expert than I am. But
Mhm.
basically, finances should be considered from the get-go. So even in, let's say, ninth grade, you're going to be starting to think about, as a parent, what is my budget? What can I realistically afford? And also doing some research, like how much do these colleges actually cost anyway? Usually
Mhm.
that's a very shocking and discouraging moment for a parent when they realize
Yep,
that.
yep.
And then starting to think about that early. And then, when you're making a list, when your child is making a list of schools to apply, really trying to make sure that every school on the list is something that you can afford. And
Hmm.
they want to put a school on the list that you can afford, to have a very frank and upfront discussion about this early so that
Yep,
you're not, in April, May, and, junior can't go to Prestige U because it just isn't financially possible.
yep,
And then they
yep,
feel bad.
And I do think this is one of those areas where I wish it was more transparent
yep. Yeah,
because like you said, families are okay, we got in, and I say we because it's usually a family affair
yeah,
applying to college. And you may not know how much it's going to cost yet, because the financial forms don't come until later. And so when families are applying to college, I always say it's like going to the car lot. You don't pay the sticker. Rarely
Hmm.
do you pay the sticker price.
Yeah.
And sometimes your most affordable school will be that private out-of-state school. And of course, there are those few schools that meet your demonstrated need,
Right.
which
Right.
sounds so promising. Uh,
Yeah.
until you realize, oh, they get to decide what my need is.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
don't.
Yep.
But that's why I'm always hesitant to say don't apply to that school because sometimes things change. I had a family a few years ago. They applied, they had a good list, they had likely targets, and then they had schools that were reach schools for everyone.
Hmm.
And they were looking at schools that meet need.
Okay.
And that need ranged from $16,000 a year to $50,000 a year. It's it's hard to say because the schools don't divulge what their algorithms are
Hmm.
for the CSS profile, how they determine what they're able to give you from their institutional funds.
Yeah. Yep. And that's a great point. That we all probably feel we have financial need. I'm going to say most of us, probably
Mhm.
most of those listening to the podcast, we felt that way. But what we feel versus what FAFSA comes back with the student aid index is usually drastically different. I'm thinking of one family I worked with a couple years ago. Their household income was slightly under $100,000, and their SAI came back at about 25,000, which it's going to vary from school to school, but essentially what the government's saying there is you can afford $25,000 a year for your student. And I know they couldn't have afforded that, and I don't think most people making under 100,000 can spend a quarter of their pre-tax income for college. I just
And that's a great example because if that student was lucky enough to get into a school like Princeton,
hmm.
they wouldn't pay tuition.
Right, right.
So there's this wide range of affordability.
Yeah.
Uh, it's frustrating. So Lisa's right. Process goal, have that conversation early so everyone knows this is our number.
Hmm.
And we'll just see what the schools come back with. It's hard not to get attached to schools in the
It is.
process.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the name of your book is Calm College Method. Is there a financial piece to this calm method? Does it bring, calm to the financial piece of it?
Theoretically, it should, right? With planning, I believe with planning and with research comes calm, right? Because you have all the information that you need to make decisions. And
Hmm.
then I think also, you focus a lot on applying for outside scholarships. I
Hmm.
mean, you can certainly use a process goal to build that into your application plan and then,
Hmm.
kind of calmly be working on those applications, maybe junior year, senior, year, doing like
Yeah.
two or three a month.
Yep.
And then no one's too stressed out about it ever.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when you talk to parents who are really invested in this, it's like what can we be doing
Hmm.
right now? And I met with a family yesterday of an eighth grader, and what can we be doing? I'm like, well, here's some things you can be doing, and I really should haul out my spreadsheet I did for my daughter, and here are all the scholarships you can be
Yeah.
applying to.
Right.
But that is absolutely one of them in eighth and ninth grade. You
Yeah.
can work on
Yep.
that. So when you're in 11th and 12th grade, that's already done.
Yeah, yeah, and not done in the sense that you don't apply for more scholarships, but you understand the process. You maybe have some essays that you can pull from, maybe not using them, cut and paste, but taking what you've written and making a few tweaks here and there is much easier than starting from scratch in the middle of senior year, right?
And I call that poaching.
Yeah, yeah,
You can poach from
yep,
those earlier essays. Yeah.
yeah, yep. And aside from the practice, younger students do win. Have a student who I'm working with currently. She won $15,000 as a sophomore. Another family I'm working with, a freshman and younger sibling, fourth grade, both won $2,500. So
That's amazing.
yeah, yep, younger students can definitely win.
I love that.
Yeah. Um, well, what would you say successful admissions looks like when you're making affordability one of your priorities?
Well, for me, I think that your list should have likely target and reach schools,
Hmm.
and every single one of those schools should be a financial fit. Every single one, because we'll figure it out is not a good financial plan.
Hmm.
So in terms of success on the financial side, that's what I think the most important thing is. You can go to any of them.
Lisa, anything that you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I think that, it's for me, it's a holistic, and I know we all hate that word in college admissions, right? But it's a holistic view of what is successful, and that financial piece is a huge part of it.
Hmm.
For me, that the kid is going to a school that they love, that's a really great fit for them socially and academically, and that their family can afford. Like that's like Christmas morning to me,
Hmm.
when that happens. That's just the best feeling, and I hope it's the best feeling for the families.
Yeah,
Just have all those pieces together that you've worked so hard to put into place.
yeah, yep. Well, I've kind of focused the conversation a lot on the financial piece, but I know that you cover more than that in your book. Can you just tell us a little bit more about your book and maybe what's covered, and maybe one thing that you would want the listeners to kind of take away from that?
Mhm. Yeah, sure. So our book is focused on how to restructure the college admissions process in a way that will reduce stress. And the way that we do that is focusing on process goals. And process goals are different from outcome goals. So
Hmm.
outcome would be like, I want to win the Coca-Cola scholarship,
Hmm.
right? Where a process goal would be something like, I need to apply to 3 scholarships a month. Because obviously, there's a lot of variability and things that we can't control about who wins the Coca-Cola scholarship.
Right.
And we take that basic principle and we back it up and we give you very actionable things that you can do in middle school, ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. And the idea is if you follow sort of this guidelining, you can, of course, adapt it to your own needs, right?
Sure.
Um, then you will just move through the process at a very reasonable pace. It won't be too stressful at any one point,
Hmm.
and that you will have avoided a lot of the panic, the self-esteem issues. The idea is that like if you have done all the things that you can do, then you're succeeded. If
Yeah.
you judge success about getting into Ivy University, and then you just don't happen to get in that year because they needed a tuba player and you
Mhm.
don't play the tuba,
Yeah.
like then you're feeling bad about yourself, right?
Right.
Even though you did everything right. And we're trying to refocus it on the factors that are in a student and a family's control. You do those things, you're a winner.
Mm. Yep.
And I think, and Lisa, I know you can speak to this better than I can, but it comes from sports psychology.
Yes.
And so when you think about, playing the sports ball games, and
Mhm.
I'm not
Sorry,
really a
Linda and
sports.
I are not sports fans, and so we always joke
That's
that he
okay.
plays sports ball at that school.
But this is a very good thing. So they don't go into it, we're my beloved Lions. We want to win the Super Bowl. Well, let's just win a few games,
Yeah.
guys.
Yep.
And that starts with practice. And we're gonna, beat Green Bay, and then we're gonna beat the Bears, and then eventually, hopefully, you'll get to the Super Bowl. But if you don't, you have done the best you can. And
Hmm.
I think that's what the coaches say, um, right? I'm sure that's what the
I'm
coaches
sure
say.
that is.
I'm
It's
I'm
sort of
sure.
it's sort of like if Ted Lasso were coaching the Detroit Lions. That's what would be said, right? Um,
Yeah.
Ted Lasso was a huge process goals guy and not focusing at all on the outcomes. But yeah, I the research on sports psychology shows that athletes who take a process goals approach actually have better outcomes
Hmm.
than athletes who don't, simply because they are, I think, managing their anxiety better throughout the process. And they
That's a
don't
great
go in
point.
with so much pressure on themselves. And that gives them more energy to be able to perform at their best.
Yeah. Yep.
I think this really shows up a lot in test prep, and because a lot of times students they'll realize, oh, I need a 1500 or something in order to get into one of those tippy top schools, but then they don't do anything about it until, senior year.
Hmm.
And that's what if you don't, if you're not that close. But if you start taking practice tests
Hmm.
and you start studying, even if you don't get to that 1500, you know you've done the best that you can.
Right.
You have done what you can.
Yep.
And that's a win as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. One of the things you mentioned is that the book has these processes starting as early as middle school. Is I guess once a student is in college, it would be too late to implement these, but is there a point where it becomes too late for a student to benefit or for a parent to benefit from the processes?
Think it's never too late. You can always start with process goals. And sometimes people will come to us very late in the process, maybe fall of senior year or something, but we're
Hmm.
still able to structure their application process with these goals. And I'm hoping that it teaches students how to do that in other aspects of their life. So when they go to college and they have
Hmm.
a really hard class, they remember, okay, I'm going to break this down into I did my reading, I went and talked to the TA. I went to a study group. So whatever kind of happens on the test, I hope it goes well. But if it doesn't, like, I don't think I could have done any better on that test. And they
Yep.
don't take such a self-esteem hit.
Hmm. Yep.
Talking about scholarships, so this is an example, a scholarship that I read for a couple of years ago. One of the questions was, and I love this question, was you're a freshman in college and it's you just got your midterm back and it was not what you expected it to be. What do you do now?
Hmm.
And 90% of the students were just, I'm going to work harder. I'm just going to study more. I'm just going to, do more. I'm going to power through. And there were a few students who were like, well, I would go into office hours and I would meet with the TA and I would have the study group, exactly like Lisa was talking about. So if you have been practicing process goals, you're going to be doing that as soon as you get to college. You're not going to wait
Hmm.
until midterms. You are going to be doing that before you need it. And then you'll get the grade that hopefully you want.
Yeah. Yep. I love that. You mentioned that you have read for scholarships. Obviously, every scholarship has different priorities and different requirements and different essay prompts. But as a person who has read scholarship essays, do you want to just maybe give one piece of advice for the listeners?
Apply. Apply. I read for a community college years ago, and there were times where everybody gets a scholarship because there weren't enough students. So local scholarships, even scholarships when you're in college,
Yeah.
and I think to just put in the effort because so many of the scholarship essays I read. Um, I don't believe that they have put in a lot of time and
Mm-hmm.
effort, and it really shows. I just told Lisa this week, I was at a coffee shop reading essays, and boom, one just like it gutted me, and I teared up a little
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the coffee shop, and I was like, oh, this student worked hard on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So it's I know students when they are applying to college. they're in high school, they've got a lot of things going on, trying to have a social life, and then somebody is encouraging, goading, nagging them to apply for
Yep.
scholarships. But take the time. If you're going to do it, really put in the effort.
Yeah.
I think it pays off.
I love that. That's great advice. Well, we've talked about your book, but would you tell us how else you work with students and families?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, Linda and I both work with students and families individually, and we're hoping to get some courses up soon, although that's everything seems like it always takes longer than you think it's going
Hmm.
to, right? But we do individual counseling, and we work with people either just for 1 hour or we have packages, and we love it. Linda and I know both love forming relationships with families and, helping them get through like kind of a difficult time and seeing all those successes at the end.
That's great. Anything to add to that, Linda?
Lisa covered it. We work with families, and it's really from, I think, eighth grade is the youngest, all the way up. I think the latest a student came to me was December of their
Okay.
senior year. And I think we believe in meeting students where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of colleagues have my class of 27 starts now, and we're full. And sometimes that sounds amazing because you can really schedule things, but sometimes families don't realize that they need help until it's later. And I'm happy to that we can provide that kind of service for them.
That's awesome. Well, I do want to mention a special offer that I'm going to do because I want people to read your book, and of course I would like them to apply for scholarships. So I've decided that I'm going to create a special landing page for my scholarship GPS course, where when people use that landing page, they will get a free copy of your book, Calm College Method, as a sign up bonus, and the course will be discounted when using that link. So www.scholarshipgps.com/calm will take you to that offer, and you can get a free copy of Linda and Lisa's book.
That is off. That is awesome. And I hope that, all of your clients win all of their scholarships.
I would love that too. Yeah, I tell my clients you are going to lose more scholarships than you win, and that's just the reality. That's why applying in a quality manner is of course important, but quantity matters
Mhm.
too. You need to cast a targeted but wide net.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your wisdom with my audience. I would love to have you both back on again in the future.
Well, thank you, Dave. And I think, when Linda and I we're hoping to get our podcast started soon, and we'd love to have you to talk about scholarships. I subscribe to your Substack, and I've been getting that daily scholarship, and it's just
Mhm.
fascinating the variety of scholarships that are out there
Yeah. Yep.
and how different kids can fit into that. So, I mean, you do such important work, and I
Thank you.
definitely think that should be shared widely.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Well, I look forward to coming on your show when it launches.
Great. Thank you,
Thank you
Dave.
so much.